There's a moment every man eventually understands, not because someone teaches it to him, but because life pushes him face first into the truth. Women never stay for logic, they never stay for comfort, and they never stay because you treated them perfectly. They stay when you keep them in an emotional rhythm that awakens something inside them. Not chaos, not drama, not manipulation, but that subtle, intoxicating pulse of unpredictability that makes her feel alive around you. When you become the man whose presence she can't predict, the one whose attention she can't fully secure, the one whose mind she can't fully read, she begins to crave you with a hunger that logic cannot touch. And what makes this so powerful is that you don't achieve it by performing, you achieve it by stepping into the version of yourself that doesn't need anything from her. The version of you that moves with quiet self-assurance and lets her feel the emotional gravity of your absence just as deeply as she feels your presence. Most men destroy their own attraction by trying too hard to make things smooth. They confuse stability with comfort, comfort with safety, and safety with desire. The emotional safety does not create longing, it only creates routine, and routine is the silent killer of attraction. A woman does not crave a man she fully understands. She craves a man who makes her feel something she cannot quite explain. When she senses that your world does not revolve around her, that your peace is not something she can influence, that your identity is rooted in something she cannot take away, she starts paying attention in a way she never did before. You become the emotional puzzle her mind keeps returning to. Not because you're distant, but because you're not emotionally consumable. You are felt, but not owned. There is a specific emotional state women crave but can never admit aloud, the balance between closeness and uncertainty. Too much closeness suffocates them, too much uncertainty wounds them, but the man who knows how to stand in the middle, that's the man they fall for in ways they don't understand themselves. You don't achieve this by withholding affection, nor by drowning her in it. You achieve it by being a man who lives from his center, who moves with intention, who expresses himself when he chooses to, not when he fears losing her. When she feels that she cannot predict what version of you she'll get each day, not because you change, but because your emotional world is deeper than she expected, she becomes highly attuned to your presence. Her mind stays alert, engaged, curious. And a curious woman is a woman who stays. What men need to understand is that women don't chase the man who gives them everything. They chase the man whose presence shifts their emotional state. That's why the same woman who ignored you when you were trying will suddenly orbit around you when you stop proving yourself. Because your silence, your stillness, your lack of urgency create an emotional vacuum she feels compelled to fill. She starts overthinking. She starts wondering if she misread you. She starts questioning her assumptions, and that internal conflict is what binds her to you in ways that gifts never could. The moment a woman begins thinking about you when you're not there, the moment she starts replaying things in her head, that's the moment she begins to want you far more than she expected. A woman's desire is fueled by sensation, not information. She is drawn to how a man makes her feel, not what he says. And the feeling she craves most isn't excitement or romance, it's emotional movement. She wants to sense shifts in the dynamic, moments when your presence feels warm, moments when it feels distant, moments when it feels mysterious, moments when it feels grounded. These are not games, these are the natural rhythms of a man who is deeply connected to his own life. When she feels that your emotional world isn't static, that your energy shifts based on your own evolution, not her demands, she becomes captivated, because suddenly, being with you feels like a journey, not a destination. When a woman gets everything she wants too easily, her mind relaxes, but her desire dies. This is why men who over-provide, over-explain, over-communicate, and over-invest early on find themselves abandoned emotionally. They give her certainty before she has earned it. But when you pull back, when you protect your attention, when you let her come to you instead of handing yourself over, she enters a new emotional landscape. She begins to feel the absence of your energy. An absence, when delivered by a grounded man, is louder than any words he could speak. It's the silence that makes her wonder. It's the unknown that makes her feel. It's the distance that makes her chase. There's also something deeply psychological at play. Women are not attracted to men who need them. They're attracted to men they can't fully secure. A man who doesn't need constant validation, who doesn't crumble when she pulls away, who doesn't panic when she becomes distant. That man triggers her deepest instincts. She starts leaning in without realizing it. Her texts become more thoughtful. Her attention sharpens. She starts matching your energy instead of expecting you to match hers. Because now she senses you are not trying to earn her, you are inviting her. and invitations create desire, pressure destroys it. Another powerful shift happens when a woman realizes she cannot manipulate your emotional state. The moment she sees that you don't react to her mood swings, her coldness, her delays, her sudden distance, everything changes, because now you're not playing on the emotional field she controls, you're playing on yours. She can't shake you, she can't destabilize you, she can't make you chase. And that lack of emotional control triggers the very craving she once denied having. She starts wanting the man who doesn't move when she pushes him, because if she can't control you, she must understand you, and once she tries to understand you, she becomes attached. What keeps her craving you even more is the way your authenticity makes her feel safe, without making her feel in control. A man who stands in his truth, who speaks when he chooses, who withdraws when he needs to, who returns when he decides, that man creates an emotional rhythm she naturally falls into. You're not volatile, but you're not predictable. You're not cold, but you're not clingy. You're not indifferent, but you're not chasing. You live in the middle, the place where masculine power actually becomes irresistible. And the more she feels this balance, the more she restructures her behavior around your presence. In the end, keeping her in the emotional state she craves is not about tactics. It's about stepping into the version of yourself who refuses to abandon his center for anyone. It's about being a man whose emotional world is full, rich, and self-sustaining, so she feels drawn into your life, not responsible for sustaining it. When she realizes she can participate in your world but never own it, when she feels chosen but never claimed as an obligation, when she experiences your affection but never receives it as compensation for insecurity, that's when she wants you more deeply than she has ever wanted anyone. Because the craving she feels isn't for your attention, it's for your gravity. What intensifies her longing is when she realizes she can't quite define what you feel for her, even though she senses the connection. You're present when you choose, warm when you want to be, distant when you need to be. And that unpredictability doesn't frustrate her the way it frustrates insecure men. It awakens her. It makes her pay closer attention. It makes her lean forward instead of leaning back. Because now being with you feels like something real, something alive, not a predictable routine she can sleepwalk through. She becomes more careful with her words, more intentional with her texts, more tuned into your energy. Without knowing it, she begins valuing moments with you, because she can't assume you'll always be available. And that scarcity isn't manipulation, it's the natural effect of a man who lives a full life that doesn't pause for anyone. She also starts craving you more when she senses that your silence is not punishment, it's your natural state. When she sees that you don't need constant conversation to feel secure, that you aren't bothered by distance, that you don't collapse when she withdraws, she experiences something most women rarely feel with modern men: emotional safety without emotional dependence. She realizes you're not disappearing to get a reaction. You're disappearing because you're occupied with your purpose, your peace, your ambitions, and that awareness flips a switch in her mind. Suddenly, you're not a man who's ignoring her. You're a man who refuses to let his world shrink for her. And that's when she starts chasing your presence, because she knows every moment she gets is a moment you chose, not a moment you needed. What truly deepens her pull toward you is the emotional mirror you hold up without even trying. When you remain calm while she is chaotic, steady while she is uncertain, grounded while she is spiraling, she feels something she can't put into words. She feels smaller, but in a good way, not diminished, but humbled. Because now she isn't dealing with a typical man who bends, breaks, and begs when she acts unpredictable. She's dealing with someone whose emotional strength exposes her own instability, and instead of resenting you for it, she becomes drawn to the balance you offer. She wants to get closer to that calm because it makes her feel more secure within herself. And as she tries to match your energy, she begins to invest in you in ways she never intended. Another shift happens when she realizes you're not measuring her potential the way other men do. Most men see a woman's beauty and immediately imagine a future with her. They project dreams onto her. They fantasize. They commit emotionally before she's earned a single piece of them. But you don't do that. You observe her patterns. You watch her choices. You pay attention to her emotional consistency. You don't fall for the highlight reel. And she feels the difference. She senses that she can't rely on charm, looks, or sweet words to secure you. She has to show something real, something solid. And the moment she realizes her actions matter, that her effort matters, that your approval is not guaranteed, something shifts inside her. She starts valuing you because she knows she cannot simply have you. But the deepest craving comes when she realizes that life doesn't pull you away from her. You pull yourself away from her. Most men drift when a woman loses interest, not out of confidence, but out of pain. But you drift with intention. You don't wait for her to validate you again. You don't keep offering pieces of yourself, hoping she'll come around. You step back because you refuse to stay where your energy isn't appreciated. And when she sees that, when she realizes you left, not because you were hurt, but because you had the strength to walk away first, that's when she starts to feel something she never expected. The fear of losing a man she didn't know she needed until he was gone. That fear becomes longing. That longing becomes obsession. And that obsession brings her right back into your gravity. What really starts haunting her is the quiet shift in your energy the moment she feels you no longer orbit her emotionally. She can sense it before you even say a word. The conversations feel lighter, not because you're trying to be distant, but because your heart has stopped fighting for space in her life. You listen differently, you react differently, you don't rise to the bait when she tries to test your patience. You don't offer explanations for things she no longer deserves explanations for. You've stopped bleeding yourself dry. And that subtle detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the moment she realizes she no longer has the emotional pull she once believed would last forever. And nothing shakes a woman more than realizing the man who once wanted her deeply now feels nothing desperate at all. She begins replaying the past with new eyes. At first, she dismissed your kindness, your patience, your effort as simply who you were. She took those things for granted because she assumed you'd always remain the same. But now that she feels your distance, she remembers everything differently. She remembers the nights you stayed up with her when she was overwhelmed. She remembers the days you made time for her, even when life was crushing you. She remembers how you listened, how you guided, how you protected her emotions, even when she didn't protect yours. She remembers how steady you were, and how recklessly she handled that steadiness, and it hits her slowly, painfully. She didn't just lose you, she wasted a version of you she might never see in another man again. The craving intensifies when she realizes other women now experience a version of you she never earned. She sees you evolving. She sees your confidence improving. She sees you prioritizing yourself in ways you never did when you were with her. And it bothers her in a way she doesn't talk about to anyone, because deep down, she knows she was the one who pushed you into becoming this version of yourself. The man she tested, ignored, undervalued, turned into the man other women now admire. And that emotional punch hits her somewhere deeper than jealousy. It hits her identity. She starts wondering if she misjudged you, if she let her immaturity destroy something worth keeping, if her fantasy blinded her to the reality of who you were. That inner conflict is what keeps her thinking about you long after you've built a life she no longer has access to. There's also a unique kind of torment she feels when she remembers how differently you loved her compared to the men who came after you. She realizes the attention other men give is shallow, unfocused, and self-serving. They compliment her because they want something. They chase her because they lack substance. They show emotion because they're afraid she'll leave. But you weren't built like that. You didn't love her from a place of fear. You loved from a place of strength. You didn't chase because you were empty. You pursued with intention. And now, surrounded by men who crumble under pressure and disappear at the first sign of challenge, she finally understands that what you gave her wasn't normal. It was rare, the kind of rare she didn't appreciate until life forced her to compare. But the final blow, the one that stays with her the longest, is the moment she realizes you're truly happy without her. Not performing, not pretending, not posting motivational quotes to numb the hurt. Actually happy, actually peaceful, actually rebuilding your life from a place of strength. Because women can emotionally handle your anger, your heartbreak, even your bitterness. All of that means she still matters. But the moment she sees you thriving in silence, smiling genuinely, living with a heart no longer tangled in her memory, that's when she feels the loss in its purest form. That's when she understands that she didn't just lose a man, she lost a future, a home, a safe place she can never return to. And the cruel part, that realization always arrives too late. As time goes on, the memory of you becomes less about the moments you shared and more about the contrast you created in her life. Every man she dates after you exposes something she never noticed while she had you. How rare stability is, how rare emotional discipline is, how rare it is to find someone who doesn't fold under pressure or abandon himself just to keep a woman happy. She starts to see a pattern, not in you, but in the men who followed. They get irritated easily. They want validation constantly. They crumble when she withdraws. They panic when she's distant. And suddenly she realizes why your presence always felt different. You weren't acting strong. You were strong. You weren't pretending to be calm, you lived in calm. And the men she meets now push her deeper into that realization until she can't ignore it anymore. She also begins to understand something she couldn't fathom when she had you. Losing you wasn't a moment. It was a process she created with every careless decision she made. She remembers the time she brushed off your effort, the time she took your consistency for granted, the time she played with your emotions believing you'd always remain available. She recalls the nights she pulled away hoping you'd chase harder, and the shock she felt when you didn't. And now, with distance and perspective, she finally sees those moments for what they were. The slow unraveling of something meaningful. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped fighting battles she kept creating. And that realization cuts deeper than any breakup speech ever could. What keeps her thinking about you long after the relationship ends is not guilt or nostalgia. It's the awareness that she contributed to the downfall far more than she ever admitted. Women often rewrite the story to protect their ego, telling themselves he wasn't ready, or he was too much, or he wasn't the right one. But with you, the story doesn't rewrite cleanly. There's no easy villain to blame, no simple justification to lean on, because you gave her honesty, you gave her patience, you gave her emotional investment without losing your backbone. And now, when she tries to explain to herself why it fell apart, nothing lands, nothing sticks, nothing sounds convincing, because she knows, deep down, she didn't lose a man who failed her. She lost a man who held steady while she self-destructed, and there's something else she never tells anyone. Something that lingers quietly in the background of her life. She fears she'll never again feel the version of herself she felt around you. Not because you made her more confident or more beautiful, but because you brought out the parts of her she didn't know how to honor. You allowed her softness without exploiting it. You challenged her illusions without shaming her. You grounded her storms without running away. And that combination is something most women never experience twice in their lifetime. So when she looks in the mirror and doesn't feel that same emotional presence anymore, when new men fail to awaken that deeper layer of her identity, she begins to understand that losing you wasn't just losing a partner, it was losing a version of herself she liked more. But the most haunting truth settles in slowly, often months or years later. You moved on because you healed, not because you replaced her. That difference changes everything for her. If you had rushed into someone new, she could tell herself you needed distraction. If you had sought validation, she could pretend you were broken. But you chose solitude instead. You rebuilt yourself in silence. You found peace where she expected to see pain. And that is the moment she realizes she didn't just lose someone significant, she lost someone irreplaceable. Because the man who heals without bitterness, who improves without noise, who evolves without seeking applause, becomes a man whose absence feels heavier than his presence ever did. She finally understands that she wasn't forgotten, she was outgrown. The longer the distance grows, the more she starts to notice how differently her life feels without your presence anchoring it. Not because you saved her or carried her, but because your energy brought a balance she didn't realize she depended on. With new men, everything feels louder, more chaotic, more uncertain. The conversations lack depth, the attention feels shallow, the affection feels temporary, and even though she tries to pretend she's moved on, a part of her keeps comparing everything she experiences now to what she once had with you. She notices how easily other men get flustered, how quickly they get jealous, how desperately they seek reassurance, and she remembers how you never reacted like that, how you held yourself with quiet confidence, how your emotions were measured, not messy. And that contrast becomes a quiet ache she can't shake. At some point, she begins to understand something she ignored while she had you. You didn't love her from scarcity. You loved her from abundance. You weren't clinging to her because you needed a relationship to feel whole. You weren't performing masculinity to impress her. You weren't bending your life to earn her approval. You were a man who had options, purpose, direction, and still chose her. But she confused your intentional love for weakness. She underestimated the strength behind your softness. And now, when she meets men who love from insecurity, who collapse into her identity, who lose themselves trying to win her affection, she realizes how different your love actually was. You were never trying to possess her, you were inviting her into a world she wasn't prepared to value. There's a loneliness that hits her long after the relationship ends, and it's not the loneliness of being single, it's the loneliness of losing access to a man who saw her deeply, a man who listened between the lines, a man who didn't rush to fix her insecurities, but didn't run from them either. A man who made her feel understood in ways she never understood herself. And when that kind of presence disappears, life feels colder. Not because she can't meet new people, but because no one mirrors back the same level of emotional clarity you once gave her. She tries to replace the feeling, but it doesn't show up again. She tries to bury the memory, but it resurfaces in quiet moments, in the late night silence, in the pauses between conversations, in the parts of her day where she notices the emptiness you used to fill without even trying. She also begins realizing how different your silence feels compared to the silence of other men. When they stop talking, it feels like immaturity, pettiness, avoidance. When you became silent, it felt like closure. It felt intentional. It felt earned. It wasn't the silence of someone who wanted attention. It was the silence of a man who respected himself enough not to stay where he wasn't valued. And that silence becomes a constant reminder of the moment she pushed too far, the moment she tested you one time too many, the moment she misread your patience as a weakness she could exploit. Now she understands the truth. The silence of a self-respecting man is not empty, it's final. And that finality is what she struggles with the most. Eventually, she reaches the point every woman reaches when she loses a man who loved her deeply and walked away with dignity. She begins to regret not who you were, but who she forced you to become. She remembers the version of you that tried, that believed, that hoped, that showed up again and again despite feeling drained. And she knows she will never meet that version of you again, because he wasn't destroyed, he evolved. He learned, he outgrew the place where she left him. And now she understands the harshest truth of all. She didn't just lose a man, she lost the last man who actually cared enough to give her something real. The last man who saw her beyond the surface. The last man who could have built a life with her if she hadn't taken his heart, his patience, his effort, and treated them like they were guaranteed. And by the time she realizes all this, you're no longer looking back. What stays with her the longest is how effortlessly you rebuilt your identity once she was gone. She expected you to break, to spiral, to question your worth, the way most men do after giving too much, but instead, your life grew sharper, your aura got heavier, you became quieter, but stronger, you stopped explaining yourself, you stopped trying to prove anything, and without even realizing it, you stepped into a version of yourself she always claimed she wanted, but never earned. That growth becomes her punishment, because she watches you evolve into the man she thought she had ownership over, only to realize she was merely a chapter in your story, not the ending she assumed she'd be. And that realization hits harder than heartbreak. It hits her ego, her pride, her sense of self. She begins to understand the weight of your presence only when she feels the emptiness left behind, not the temporary silence of someone taking space, the permanent silence of someone who's done giving. Because you weren't just a boyfriend or a man she dated, you were a stabilizing force in a world where most men were chaotic and inconsistent. And now when she deals with men who lack direction, who crumble under emotional pressure, who treat intimacy like a performance instead of a responsibility, she sees what she lost. She sees how rare emotional maturity is. She sees how rare a grounded man is, and regret doesn't show up as tears or apologies. It shows up as quiet realizations she never expresses out loud. There's a specific moment, and she'll never admit this to anyone, when she realizes she misjudged you entirely. It usually happens when she sees you laughing again, genuinely, or when she comes across a photo where your eyes don't look tired anymore, or when someone mentions how well you're doing, how focused you've become, how much you've accomplished since she left. In that moment, she sees the truth. You weren't broken, you were rebuilding, you weren't destroyed, you were reorganizing your life. And suddenly, the narrative she told herself, that you needed her, that she was the best you'd ever get, that you'd never truly move on, collapses. Because there you are, thriving in a life that no longer includes her. But the heaviest emotional blow comes when she realizes you never tried to replace her, that you didn't drown yourself in rebound relationships, that you didn't chase validation or distraction. You simply walked your path with the same depth you once offered her. Because women are used to men who panic when rejected, men who beg, who plead, who jump into new relationships to soothe their ego. But when you stayed alone and disciplined, she felt it. It made her question her value in your life. It made her wonder if she meant as much as she imagined. It made her realize that your love was a gift, not a dependence. And once a woman understands that she was a choice, not a necessity, the regret begins to settle in quietly, deeply. Years later, she will still think about you during the moments when she feels most alone. Not because she misses the relationship, but because she misses the version of herself she only became around you. She misses the safety of your presence, the clarity of your guidance, the steadiness of your affection. She misses the man who understood her chaos, but didn't let it consume him. And while she might never reach out, never apologize, never articulate her regret, it stays there, lodged in a corner of her mind. She rarely visits. She knows she didn't lose you to someone else. She lost you to the man you became after she mishandled who you were. And that truth becomes a weight she carries quietly for the rest of her life. As time passes, the memory of you no longer feels like a relationship she ended. It feels like a crossroads where she chose the wrong direction. At first, she convinced herself she was exploring life, chasing excitement, experiencing something better. But the further she walks down that path, the more she realizes she traded substance for noise, stability for chaos, depth for surface-level attention. You weren't the perfect man, but you were the one who offered something she now understands is far more valuable than fleeting excitement, consistency, the type of emotional steadiness she thought she could replace easily, until life introduced her to the reality of modern dating, where everyone is temporary and no one truly sees anyone. And in that contrast, you become more significant, not because you changed, but because her understanding finally caught up to the truth. She begins feeling the emotional consequences of losing you, not in big dramatic waves, but in small, accumulating moments. A random song that once meant nothing suddenly reminds her of how peaceful she felt around you. A conversation with a new man falls flat, and she remembers how naturally she opened up with you. She gets attention from strangers and realizes it feels empty, transactional, shallow. And as these moments compound, she sees the pattern clearly. You weren't just a man she dated. You were a man she connected with in a way her impulsive decisions didn't allow her to value at the time. Now, every new experience only highlights what she once had and carelessly walked away from. That's the thing about regret. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and it whispers at the exact moments she can't escape. Another thing she eventually understands is that your silence wasn't meant to hurt her, it was meant to heal you. And ironically, that healing process becomes the very thing that hurts her the most. Because when she sees that your life didn't freeze without her, that your identity didn't collapse, that your self-worth didn't break, it forces her to confront the painful truth that she overestimated her place in your world. Most men fall apart when a woman leaves. She expected the same from you, but your silence became a declaration of self-respect she wasn't prepared for. It showed her the strength she tried to downplay. It highlighted the maturity she overlooked. And it revealed that she didn't break you, she revealed you. She brought out a version of yourself that now stands taller than anything she tried to diminish. From the outside, she pretends everything is fine. She posts pictures, smiles in group photos, entertains new men, lives the life she once believed would feel exciting and free. But behind closed doors, she has moments where something inside her collapses a little. A realization, a flashback, an unwanted thought. Because she's finally seeing the long-term cost of her short-term decisions. She sees that chemistry fades, attention fades, excitement fades, but character does not. She realizes that the men who came after you gave her sparks but no warmth, intensity but no stability, interest but no intention. And in that contrast, she sees how rare your presence actually was. Not because you were flawless, but because you were real. And in a world addicted to illusion, real becomes unforgettable. Eventually, she reaches the truth every man wishes he could understand sooner. A woman rarely misses the relationship. She misses the man she couldn't replace. She misses the emotional sanctuary he provided. She misses the version of herself he brought out. She misses the peace that only existed when he was in her life. And while she may never reach out, never confess it, never show vulnerability, it doesn't change the reality of what she feels. Because the loss of a man who truly cared, who tried, who gave, who stood firm in who he was, that loss echoes quietly through her life, long after you've healed. She lives with the weight of what she forfeited, and you move forward with the strength she never knew how to appreciate when she had access to it. As life moves forward, she begins to understand something she couldn't see when she was in the middle of her impulses. Losing a man like you doesn't hurt immediately, it hurts eventually. The beginning feels freeing because she's chasing novelty. The middle feels distracting because she's surrounded by noise. But the ending is where it comes full circle. That's where she realizes you were the only man who ever offered her a calm future instead of a chaotic present. She looks back and sees how different everything felt with you. Not because the relationship was perfect, but because you were consistent. And that consistency becomes the benchmark she quietly measures every man against. a benchmark no one meets, a benchmark she once thought was normal until she discovered how rare it truly was. She doesn't realize it at first, but the longer you stay gone, the more she starts to understand the emotional safety you once gave her. Not the surface level safety of someone who texts her good morning, but the deeper safety that comes from knowing you are reliable, loyal, emotionally stable and grounded. She noticed how other men's moods shift unpredictably, how they become insecure when she doesn't respond quickly, how they need constant reassurance because they're terrified of losing her. And then she remembers you, the man who never begged for attention, who never demanded emotional payment, who never made his insecurities her responsibility. Your steadiness becomes a ghost that follows her into every new connection, and that ghost reminds her that she once had something she wasn't mature enough to hold on to. There are moments where she genuinely wonders whether you ever think about her anymore, not because she wants to return, but because she needs to know she mattered. But your silence, your growth, your evolution, all of it tells her something she never wanted to accept. She mattered, but she wasn't essential. She was a season, not the foundation, and that truth unsettles her more than heartbreak ever could. Because women are used to being unforgettable by default, but you made her experience something unfamiliar, becoming a memory instead of a priority. She feels the shift in your energy even through the distance. She senses the emotional door has been closed, and it's that door, not the relationship, that she misses the most. Because once a grounded man closes himself off, that door never opens the same way again. She may have believed she would outgrow the relationship, but she never expected you to outgrow her. And the difference between those two realities is what breaks her pride. She watches you become wiser, calmer, stronger, not in spite of losing her, but because of it. Your heartbreak forced you into self-respect. Your sadness pushed you toward purpose. Your disappointment carved out a harder, sharper, deeper version of yourself. And now she sees a man who no longer needs her validation, attention, or presence. A man who doesn't look back unless he chooses to. A man she can no longer manipulate, soften, or distract. And for the first time, she understands why women say the most painful thing a man can ever do is show her. She no longer affects him. Eventually, she learns the truth. All women learn too late. The man who once cared the most becomes the man who cares the least when he's finally done. Not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but out of self-preservation. And that shift, that quiet, irreversible shift, becomes the core of her regret. She realizes she didn't just lose your affection, she lost your innocence. She lost the version of you that believed in her. She lost the version of you that saw a future with her. She lost the version of you that was willing to give love without hesitation. And now, no matter who she meets, how happy she pretends to be, or how deeply she buries the past, a lingering awareness follows her everywhere. She will never again be the woman you once loved, and you will never again be the man she had the chance to keep. As more time passes, she begins to understand that your absence didn't just remove you from her life, it removed the version of herself she once became around you. With other men, she feels guarded, she feels calculated, she feels like she has to perform a version of womanhood she never had to perform with you. Around you, she could be soft without feeling weak. Around you, she could be emotional without feeling judged. Around you, she could be flawed without being dismissed. And now, as she navigates connections that feel shallow, temporary, and transactional, she realizes she may never feel that same emotional safety again, not because new men can't offer it, but because she no longer trusts herself not to destroy it. That self-awareness becomes its own punishment. She starts noticing something she refused to see before. You weren't just good to her, you were good for her. Your presence calmed her impulses, your perspective balanced her emotions, your discipline stabilized her indecision. And the deeper she moves into the dating world, the more she sees that men like you are not plentiful. They're rare, they're carved out through pain, growth, introspection, not ego or performance. She realizes she didn't lose a man who needed her, she lost a man who chose her, a man other women now admire silently, a man whose value she once doubted because she assumed he'd always stay. That assumption is now the heaviest mistake she carries because she finally sees the truth. Men like you only come once. Her memory of you becomes sharper the moment she experiences mistreatment from someone new. Not because she wants to return, but because she finally sees the contrast clearly. She remembers the small things, the way you listened when she spoke, the way you noticed what she didn't say, the way you protected her emotions even when she didn't protect yours. And it's in those moments, when another man disrespects her, ignores her, or mishandles her vulnerability, that she feels the sting of what she let go. She realizes that she didn't break your heart, she broke her own future, because the love you offered wasn't temporary, impulsive, or dependent on her validation. It was grounded, intentional, and mature. And that kind of love is not something she'll easily find again. She eventually reaches a place where she tries to convince herself she's better off. She tells herself she needed freedom, that she needed to grow, that she needed to explore. But no amount of self-talk replaces the truth. Her heart already knows. She walked away from the one man who would have stood with her through every season of life. She starts realizing that the attention she chased never matched the affection you gave, that the excitement she sought never matched the emotional safety you provided, that the fantasies she pursued never matched the reality you were building with her. And in that quiet confrontation with herself, she understands something she wasn't ready to accept before. You were the one she should have kept, but she wasn't ready to be the woman who could. And in the end, long after the emotions settle and the years stretch further and further from the day she lost you, one truth remains steady inside her. She didn't lose you because you weren't enough. She lost you because she wasn't present enough to recognize what she had. She wasn't patient enough. She wasn't grounded enough. She wasn't mature enough to appreciate the depth of a man who loved without fear and walked away without hate. And now, whenever life quiets down and she sits alone with her thoughts, she feels the full weight of what she let slip through her hands. A man who grew from pain instead of collapsing under it. A man who stood firm even when she shook the foundation. A man she will never encounter again in the same way, because the moment you walked away, you stopped being her past and became the standard she measures all men against, a standard no one else ever reaches.